absence. Hi everybody, I know you can probably hear us, but for some reason the camera decided to just say, I don't think I am. So now we have to fix it, so please hold. It just likes to drop out. So let's see if we get it back. What a lovely morning we're having. It was perfect up until 5 seconds ago. Why would that do that? But we've also looked at this as a troubleshooting mission because that's why we're doing our Sunday morning stream. Firstly, there's the problem. Hold on. I thought that was the problem. We got nothing. We got nothing.
She's jumping up on something. There it is.
I wonder if it's that cable.
I have a loose connection.
Oh, loose connections. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
We're here. We're live.
Here.
What a great beginning.
I like how relaxed this one is.
It is. This is a much better. This cafe is a much better environment.
Yes.
So we got some people to recognize this week.
Yes. We're in a new studio.
Yeah, this is part of the problem.
So
is we moved studios.
This is all troubleshooting today.
Today is. Today's going to be.
Acoustics.
We do. We've got good acoustics.
Yep.
We know that they're here. There's Mom. Hi, Mom. Nice to see you.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
We're doing some troubleshooting today. So that's part of today's little mission is to make sure that things work. And I'm looking at things like our lighting and how much reflection is on Terry's face. I'm trying to make sure that that is where we want it.
Looks okay.
That looks pretty good.
I'm curious to hear how the sound sounds.
How do we sound, Ma? Give us a review. How do we sound right now? She's sitting there typing it in. She's like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you at all. So we fried a camera this week.
We did. Broke a microphone stand.
We broke a microphone stand. Beautiful light, bright picture, sound is great. Okay.
Oh, good.
All successes.
All successes.
We like that.
Yeah, we do.
So let's see. We've broken a lot of equipment this week, so now we have to go out of business. I plugged the wrong plug into one of the cameras and completely cooked it. Then earlier today I broke a microphone stand. So I've been a gem. Do you want to do an artist?
Yeah, let's do an artist.
Do you want to start us off?
I will start us off, and I will repeat everything.
Are you
going to
repeat every
I'm
single
repeat
thing I say?
That's a nursing technique.
Even though it's a nursing technique, this is Terry, our robot.
Yes.
Background music is drowning you out a bit.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can turn it down.
Thank you. This is good. Actually, this is perfect. We should sit for like
a
few minutes.
Tell us what else you
with
see
Mom.
that's
Well,
going on.
I used to have some cafe noise. Like baristas making coffees, the checkout counter, the blah blah blah. It was all there. But the problem is one of the key sound effects in that soundtrack was a grinder grinding coffee.
Oh.
So 3/4 of the time we're talking, it's going. It's like this white noise hell.
That's fun.
And I was like, okay, so 3/4 of what we do in trying to engineer our sound is get rid of white noise.
Yeah.
And I'm inserting a track that's got white noise in it.
There you go.
That's stupid.
Well, you want it to seem authentic.
This was a little too authentic.
A little too much.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to try and do a birthday now?
We can try to do a birthday.
All right.
You don't have a drink.
I know.
You
I didn't
don't
have
have a
time to get. I didn't have time to get my
large
coffee. Well, we're not on the large glass. This is Artist Shorts, but in a
Yeah, but
cafe,
you still need a glass.
I wanted to have a coffee at
Yeah.
least.
Do you want to share some of my tea?
What kind of tea you got?
This is echinacea. It's good for the immune system. I
Yeah.
think it has some elderberry in there and some other
Didn't it have
herbs.
elderberry, echinacea, and there was it
Vitamin D?
vitamin
Does
D?
it have a little bit of
Yeah.
that in there? And then it always comes with an interesting quote on the side. Because this is traditional medicinals, that brand. But I'm not going to read it.
Come on,
because
what's the quote?
well, I
Aren't you
keep-
going to give us the quote?
I keep reading it funny. So it says, one touch of nature makes the whole world kin.
One touch of nature makes the whole world kin. I like that. I like that. I'm adjusting. I'm doing some adjustments while we talk.
Well, in cafes, we're typically on cell phones and stuff, so that would be appropriate.
Well, I'm not on my cell phone. I'm on an adjustment device.
Oh, I see.
There's a difference.
Okay.
All
right.
So let's see. I just wanted to get some lighting fixed over here. And as soon as that gets up and running, we will get down to business. We've got a few artists for you today. Not many. What is it, 4 or 5?
5.
5?
We're also working on Tuesday night show. We have a great artist joining us, Lyndon Eller.
Yeah.
Mom, I think you're going to like her
Yeah,
a
Mom,
lot.
Lyndon Eller is for you. This is going to be
Yeah.
a good one for you to watch.
She's excellent. She's a collage artist.
Yep.
We haven't had a collage artist on yet, so this is gonna. I mean, we've had artists that have synthesized fabrics together, like textile artists and stuff, but she works with a variety of media, and I
Right.
guess Benny Andrews collaged elements too.
Sure. And hold on, it'll come to me. There's been a couple of others
been
that
a couple.
utilize collage elements.
Raymond Sa.
Oh yeah, Raymond with the
Yeah.
fabric.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I guess that's true.
so, all right,
Okay,
let's pop over.
let's pop over. putting the slides together too.
When I make the segment for YouTube, that last little part won't be on there.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's what I figured. You can probably edit it out.
Lost your sound. No sound. Picture fine.
Oh.
Shit. Oh, you know what happened? All right, I know. You have sound here. I know you can hear us here. I know that this mic works. Just give me 1 second and I will have this totally fixed. And I know why that happened. And now we should be working over here just fine. All right, so we got to go back and do Charles Alston. And since
we're all warmed up,
since we screwed that one up royally anyway, well, we didn't screw it up royally.
Well,
I thought,
I feel like the first one is always a little.
Well, again, this whole new studio thing is like, it's a work in progress. So,
okay.
So this is good.
All right.
All right. So you want to start over?
Yeah, sure.
It's all you.
Charles Alston, he's an American artist who was born on November 28th, 1907, associated with the Harlem Renaissance. He was a number of things. He was a sculptor, he was an illustrator, he was a painter, he's known for his murals. He was actually, has the distinction of the first African-American supervisor for the Works Progress Administration and Federal Art Project. He was also a teacher.
I like that. And I also, as I was saying once before about Charles Alston, one of the things, when we talk about these artists, when we get into, one of the reasons we're doing artist shorts is to sort of say, all right, we bring up Charles Alston, what are some of the key talking points around his work or his practice that we can sort of focus on, right? And so if we look at the image that we have up right now, we've got something that, totally references Thomas Hart Benton, for example. But then we get into a very diverse practice as far as he goes, right? So we can see something that looks like Thomas Hart Benton, very Harlem Renaissance, very sort of daily life, a very long narrative going on inside of that. But then we pop over to something that is more, much more abstract, much more psychological, much more Edward Munch, maybe a little bit of Miro. And then we pop ahead again, and we've got something that references Joseph Mirth or the 60s, or, this other kind of abstraction, this kind of expressionistic kind of painting. And then we go here and we see his Charles Alston's illustrative kind of way. Beautiful piece, very William Kentridge, very kind of politically driven in a different kind of way. But really, really quite good, as we get across all of these different pieces. And then but wait, there's more. We get into some much more abstract, almost surrealist kind of compositions, right? So Charles Alston really had a really interesting, diverse approach to his painting. He explored a lot of regions of painting, all of which I think he handled really quite well. But I love this guy's work. Understated, or underappreciated. He should really be looked at more.
He should. Yep. Yeah, so that's Charles Alston. Again, born November 28th, 1907.
All right. Nicely done. We forgot this one again. I don't know why we do that.
And then there's this illustration too, which is quite beautiful.
Well, you know what? We're not going to put that in the final segment.
Good.
So. Ay, ay, ay. What are you going to do?
Well, every time we see that from now on, we're going to be like, do you remember that one?
I know, but still, yes. I did it 2 times in a row. You'd think I would have figured that out. Okay. So, how was everybody's Thanksgiving? And by everybody, I mean the couple of people that are hanging out on a Sunday morning. I hope it was good.
Yeah.
Mom's here, so she was with
here.
us for Thanksgiving.
Yes.
So we don't need to ask her.
And we know your Thanksgiving was good.
Yeah, because we did it. Yeah.
Yeah, still plowing
Okay.
through
So you know what?
leftovers.
I got to tell you, our ability to be sort of on in our personalities gets really um, hindered by some of these technological things that happen once
Yes,
in a while. So
that's okay.
yeah.
That's all right.
But this is the point. By Tuesday night with the Lyndon Eller
Oh
show,
yeah, I'm hoping this is really.
we'll have it all worked out.
Yeah.
It'll be in good shape.
Yes.
So yeah, especially wonderful since you both cook darn straight.
Thank you.
All right, should we pop over and do another one?
Yes, let's do that.
Let's take a look at artist number 2
Let's
for
take
today.
a look at artist number 2. So when I see this artist, I think of the stories that you have told in the past.
Which I'm not going to tell
Which
on this
he's
short.
not going to tell, but he's got stories. This is James Rosenquist. He's a pop artist, American. He was born on November 29th, 1933. He incorporated a lot of advertising, commercialism, sign painting aesthetics, a lot of recognizable imagery into his work.
Yes, he did. And we typically classify James Rosenquist in with the pop art movement. Definitely artists such as Warhol or Robert Rauschenberg certainly come to mind when we're looking at Rosenquist's work. And they were all contemporaries, and they all kind of ran together. At one time, Warhol actually proclaimed Rosenquist to be one of his favorite artists. Now, Rosenquist started out as a billboard painter. And so his hyperrealism, number 1, and his scale, number 2, come as no surprise because he's used to painting in a very large scale. So when he took to the fine arts and started making paintings, his paintings were immersive. He actually referred to them as immersive because they were incredibly large. Now, he strayed outside once in a while. I like some of these more abstract sort of ideas that he sort of worked on where there's, there's notes, there's thoughts, there's things put in. Gets a little bit more into his thinking.
Yeah, I
rather
really
than,
like this one.
Yeah, rather than
because it is different components of memory and thought that you're seeing jump in there.
Instead of the hyper-polished display sort
Yeah.
of thing. So, but again, when we see his work, we kind of think about the world of advertising, the world of pop art. But again, with key points and what we want to talk about with these artist shorts, what are the things that you can take to the table if something were to come up and you wanted to talk about art? Well, when pop art comes up, we always talk about Andy Warhol. Andy Warhol, Andy Warhol. Okay, no doubt Andy Warhol was brilliant, right? But why don't you change it up a little bit the next time pop art comes up and you're talking about this and not talk about Andy Warhol? Bring up James Rosenquist. And that's actually going to be a really interesting departure from the normal conversation for a number of reasons, right? So number 1, Warhol, we know Warhol's work. We understand about how he sort of elevated the popular culture iconography into the mainstream, or from the mainstream into the fine art world. He basically broke the myth of fine art, okay? But what Rosenquist does is he kind of pulls it back a little bit. So in a composition like the one we're seeing on the screen right now, we see iconography like we're used to from pop art, but presented in a way that's more conceptual. Therefore, I think making Rosenquist a much more interesting painter to reference. And if you took it that far, you might even go so far as to talk about Robert Rauschenberg as well, because Rauschenberg's immersiveness, his cacophony of images all kind of collaged together in space, really sort of lend a kind of another level to the pop art conversation. So, I think we're going to end on this one, which I thought you would really like.
I do.
Given the fact that there's a little pin-up thing going on,
Yes. Well, what I really like about his work, he does have a way of bringing in this triptych quality to a lot of his pieces. So it almost makes it like a religious iconography in a way. But yes, I absolutely love the image he's juxtaposing from mid-century America and very American themes.
Right. And in the 60s, as a country, we became obsessed with popular culture, obsessed with consumerism, obsessed with stars. And it just kind of fits. Rosenquist's triptych as holy iconography fits beautifully. All right.
Yep. So that's James Rosenquist, and he was born on November 29th, 1933.
Nicely done.
I'm going to flip my page now. I've been very patient. I'm like, I want to flip my page, but I'm going to wait until the breaks in between the artists. And
You know, now that we're off the actual short and
Yeah.
we're on the main screen,
Yeah.
I could tell the story.
Yeah.
I shouldn't
It's
tell
juicy.
It's not juicy.
Guess who he almost dated?
Oh, wait a minute. Just in case.
There was this girl.
Yeah, and just in case this woman ever happens to watch this show,
well, you know,
I
but
never
we
actually
can,
almost
but we can
dated
carve
her.
these parts out. That's the beauty. I mean,
I probably
you
would
guys
have
are
liked.
here and you get an exclusive
I
story.
would have liked to have dated her, but that never got. We didn't get close to that.
She liked you.
Well, that's presumptuous. I liked her, but anyway, I once met someone who I won't say where, and I won't say in what circumstance, but it was in a public space. A conversation got struck up, and she said, "Oh, well, I was with a friend of mine," and she said, "What do you guys do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm an artist," and or I think she asked where we were from, and I said, "Oh, we go to grad school up in Providence," and she said, "Oh, where?" And he said Brown, and I said RISD, and she's like, "Oh, are you an artist?" I said, "Yeah, I'm an artist," and she goes, "Oh, my grandfather's an artist," and I'm thinking to myself, "Yeah, of course, everyone's relative is an artist. That's normal." And then she's like, "You might have heard of him. His name's James Rosenquist." And even my friend Alan, who knew he's very well versed in art, very knowledgeable. He's like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, that's crazy.
So,
did you get her phone number?
I did, and we actually did have a second sort of. I went sort of. It's a long story. I don't want to get into it.
Okay.
But I think I saw her one other time, very very briefly. Wasn't gonna work.
Okay.
And honestly, it's really more about the fact that I met someone who was related to him rather than, my.
Well,
sort of
that's kind
story.
of cool, though. That is.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Hope she does see it. If you see this, tell me your side of the story.
Yeah, put that in the YouTube comments. That'll be fun.
Yeah,
Thanks.
That'll be fun. Okay.
Sunday mornings are always entertaining on Artist Shorts
really
because
are.
we're much looser. Want to do another one?
Yes, but did I spell this correctly?
I don't know.
Well, I want to know so I don't mispronounce it. Is that?
Parks.
It's gotta be, right? I'm like, did I write porks? Sorry. I'm not even drinking. That's the funny thing. This is like tea. But anyway,
we're much more level when we're
I think
on the
so.
large glass on
I
Tuesday
think
nights.
So. All right. Gordon Parks. He was born on November 30th, 1912. He's an American artist, mostly known for his photography. He is also a musician, a writer. He's known for his contributions to photojournalism. He typically photographed African Americans in impoverished conditions. He was a big advocate for civil rights. Also of interest, he had some fashion photography under his belt, and he photographed some very famous images in that genre. Also photographed a couple of notable celebrities like Eartha Kitt and Muhammad Ali. So, yeah.
Well, I think, with Parks's photos, we've been talking a little bit about photography lately. And so, photography's kind of been in my brain as we've interviewed people like Blaze Hayward and talked about people like Daniel Featherstone. And Parks's photography, one of the areas that I think, for me, as somebody who likes to talk about technique, is I think about how beautiful these images are, and it's pure darkroom. We're talking about, in terms of retouch, in terms of computer manipulation, which are all very valid things, and I'm not discounting those things. I feel like with Parks's work, I can look at this work and there is a kind of purity to it.
Purity was the exact word that came to my mind as well.
And then, we get into the content of the works and we look at, first of all, what a brilliant choice.
Truly.
Like placing
that depth of field,
the
and
camera on the ground,
subject material, yes, and the perspective. There's all kinds of great things going on in this one.
And as an art professor, one of the things I'm constantly talking to my first year students about is this notion of the balance between form and content. Form meaning, how is it made? What is it made out of? What are the techniques used to get there? Content, obviously, meaning what's in all of that. What is it? What is it trying to say? What are the elements we can talk about in it that are of, conceptual nature? And in this one, the form and the content, I think about that camera on the ground, laying on the ground at an eye level with this person, typically the level of a portrait, possibly standing, possibly sitting. But on this one, I have to get down on the ground to meet this man's sort of level. And that says volumes. I love that. And I love Parks's consideration in how he thinks about those things. So
there's a lot to unpack in all of his images. You start looking at them and your eye really wanders around and starts putting together some narrative. So I do love how he makes you think and brings you into that, probably from a perspective that maybe you weren't cognizant of in the past.
Right, exactly. Also the doll imagery thing that happens in his works says a lot, very sort of subtly, about race relationships and how the connections between children, a place where oftentimes, we don't think about those relations. We can really kind of explore that and be made aware of it in a very sort of stark way. So, there's obviously this one here, the one 2 slides ago with the 2 kids with the one doll between them. There's a lot going on there.
Yep, and then this is Muhammad Ali. That was someone he photographed a number of times. So yeah, really fantastic photographer.
And
this is his fashion, and you would recognize many of his fashion photos as well.
Yeah, I love how he's able to lend a sort of tactility in the texture to images in a way that's not cliche, meaning Muhammad Ali a moment ago had a softness about him, right? Just through the way the light reflected off that jacket.
Well, also, I like how he alternates between the worlds. Many photographers can't do that, but because of where he was, like he could go from extreme poverty to wealth and substance. I mean, you look at this model who's lavishly dressed and everything. I mean, he's really making these interesting transitions. Yeah, she's a very big departure from the 3 kids that are in that hallway with the doll. Very much so.
Right, and he does them all both beautifully.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Yep. So Gordon Parks, he was born November 30th, 1912.
Okay, and Alan Weissler's here. Alan, thanks for that comment, actually. I appreciate that. It's nice to see you. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. We are, just so you guys know, in the chat, typically we're chatting when we're on the main screen and only presenting the artists when we're on the double screen.
We're all business.
We're all business because we're going to cut them up and put them up. By the way, you can go see these on YouTube. We will sort of post about them throughout the week. Maybe as their birthdays come up, we will post their birthday. These are all artists that have birthdays coming up in the following week.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And we're in a new studio. I don't know if you heard that. So we're kind of testing out the everything. We're testing everything.
Yeah, the subtitle of this whole broadcast is Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So,
yeah.
It's cold. So our home, which is where we're not actually in a cafe. Can you believe that? But our home is a general store that was built in the 1840s. And the stone foundation for this is about 22 to 24 inches thick, which is fantastic in the summertime when you want to go find some, a cool spot. But in the wintertime, this concrete floor can be brutal. So we've got the heaters cranked down here, and it's actually kind of nice.
It is nice.
Right? It's good. The low ceiling gives us good sound.
Yeah.
It's working well.
Yeah.
So, all right, you want to do another one?
We can do another one. This is Sam Gilliam. He's an American artist as well. He was born on November 30th, 1933. He's mostly known for being a color field painter, and he was very much involved with the Washington Color School. It was a group of artists in Washington, D.C. that mostly worked with these color field abstractions. Yeah.
Well, Gilliam, what I love about Gilliam's work, and you can see it right here, is typically color field painting. Like if we think about somebody like Rothko or Albers, or, you know, somebody that's typically, you know, when we think about panels that have color relationships built into them such that colors reverberate, colors
They
sort of
vibrate. And
right.
Right.
This moves to a whole new level. Gilliam really kind of explores a sculptural side of painting, which I get really excited about, because I feel like now all of a sudden these are spaces almost like Richard Serra, in that the material of the canvas becomes this monumental, outside of its comfort zone space.
Yeah, well, it alters the landscape, rather. It alters the space that you're moving in, becomes a relief.
Right.
Yeah.
And unlike, like in this one, for example, which is much more sort of wall relief, right? It doesn't function like drapery, even though it lightly references drapery. It now becomes this other kind of, it's almost as if the wall sagged.
Yeah.
Drapery is like an embellishment on a wall. But this is almost like the wall itself has now become this kind of, it's collapsed. It's done something else. And so to me, Gilliam, with his color field painting, is kind of incorporating the architecture. He's incorporating this kind of, you know, to me, I don't even want to say this because this sounds like I'm playing down the painting, but the paint, I won't say it's second to those things, but it lives equal to those things in an interesting kind of way.
Yeah.
So, and I love this.
That's beautiful.
Right? How you can just kind of move in and around.
Yeah, it's like a landscape, right? Yeah. Yep. So, Sam Gilliam, born November 30th, 1933.
All right.
All right.
So, missed a few slides on that one, didn't we?
Is that what that was?
Yeah, there were a couple more in there.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Those are good.
Well, that's interesting because it actually has...
It really changes up.
It does. Plus, there's a lot of texture in that one, which you didn't see with the other ones. And that's, you know, we're seeing the two-dimensional
For those of you that are watching
there.
right now, just, you
That's
know.
kind of what we're...
Yeah, so off the YouTube video, these are two more that Gilliam had done that sort of stray outside of that.
Collaged kind of.
Yeah, these are more local, like, you know, not conventional, but typical compositions, you know, living inside of a square. But I love the sense of texture in this. I love the way it's almost like the trowel tool. The trowel is not the typical trowel, but the type that you would use maybe to put down tile, the kind with teeth in it. Another really interesting architectural reference, right? Because that's used to lay flooring.
Yeah.
So I like that in this. Anyway, for what it's worth, let's...
Yeah, I was thinking of sneakers when I saw that too. And I know the trowel, like what you're saying, but it looks like scuff marks almost as if...
Oh, yeah, like somebody walked through it.
Got involved in there that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We have, what, one more?
One more.
And then the show's over.
And the show's over.
All right, let's pop up. Let's get ready to do our last artist, who we will be featuring this week.
I just have a question for you.
You have a question for me?
Yeah.
Are you writing it down?
I'm going to have you whisper this in my ear.
I'm going to whisper it. Here we go. Ready?
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
I mean, that's it.
I made it much more complicated in my brain.
I'm sure you did.
Okay. Ooh, it's a cabinet card. Georges Pierre Seurat. He was born on December 2nd, 1859. French artist. We know him for pointillism. He was a post-impressionist. There's tension with many of his works between precision and abstraction. Many notable famous paintings.
Such as this one, which I just skipped right over.
Y'all know this. A Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
Yes.
And I like the point you just made about this sort of balance between this kind of precision and abstraction, which is one of the beautiful things about an impressionist work for me, in that there is this space between a very direct brushwork, right? You know, like oftentimes when painters, and, you know, having painted an awful lot myself, you know, the consideration of the action of the brush is important. Like I'll always keep garbagey brushes that have gotten really gnarly, because sometimes a particular brush that's got bristles all over the place might make a really nice
Particular
mark.
marks. Yeah.
And so mark making, when we look at work like this, is crucial. And so when we get close to a Syrah, we see that there is this kind of individual color choice, individual mark with every single stroke, which is the opposite of overworking something and blending. And so mark making for me comes to mind with Syrah's work. And again, we talk about these key points you can take away, right? And we often go to pointillist kind of techniques with this. But if you were thinking about a reference to make when it comes to his work, think about mark making, because that's one of the areas where it can get really interesting. When we dig in deep to these paintings and we get in really close, it becomes unrecognizable, right? And yeah, that can be a fun game to play with. Oh, wow, what's the image? Like, we often see these silly posters in stores that are images made out of lots of little images. That comes directly from this. And frankly, this is a much more sophisticated and beautiful endeavor when it comes to compiling what is essentially a series of pixels into a recognizable image. Because each one of those considerations, especially when you're using paint, was careful, was considered, was a lot of thought went into that, right? And so I think about that mark making and those considerations and really become inspired by these.
Yeah.
So, plus, not to mention the atmospheric element, all of that sort of lens is that softness. As you back away and the softness sort of comes in, we get away from the mark making, we now can see the feel of that space, the humidity of the day. I haven't even gone off of this image. We've got so many other images to talk about, and I'm just talking about the one we always talk about.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You want to say anything?
No, that's why I was looking at you, though.
You're like, please advance the image.
Can we advance through? Well, I'm also thinking of other artists who have followed in his footsteps with diversions, of course. Like I think of Chuck Close or...
oh, that's a great reference.
Yeah,
sure.
And Lichtenstein.
Yep.
Also, so you think of other artists who might have utilized some kind of mark making or specific color play with those specific types of marks.
Lichtenstein's work is actually a really interesting reference to this as well. So Roy Lichtenstein is a pop artist from the 1960s and 70s that Terry just referenced, and I think that's a really good point.
The Ben-Day dots.
Because the Ben-Day dots associated with commercial printing are an exact sort of not replica of this, but different application.
Like a diversion, yeah. When I think of it, I think of utilizing some of this technique, but in a different way.
Right. And when we look at certain earlier works by Syrah, we can see the development of this new thing he's getting towards. This is a much sort of less exacted mark making. It's a little bit more expressionistic. It has a much softer feel to it, but you can kind of see him coming into what would eventually result in, like Sunday in the Park and his later works that are more recognized, like this one, for example.
Yeah,
so
beautiful work. He died surprisingly young. He was in his 30s. And it seemed to be some kind of virus or viral implication. They were thinking maybe meningitis. He did have an infant son that passed away shortly after him too. But yeah, it's amazing to see, to me, when an artist has passed so young and just the prolific body of work that they've left behind. That's pretty amazing.
For sure.
Yep. So Syrah, he was born on December 2nd, 1859.
All right. Moving right along. Okay. Well, that's going to wrap today's artist shorts up. Now, we're going to be chopping these up into individual bits. We'll feature them throughout the week. And we're trying to get to this every Sunday with the holidays and moving the studio and everything going on. It's been a little bit difficult, so if we've missed you on a Sunday, we apologize. Great artist coming up this Tuesday night on the Large Glass, 8 p.m.
Yes, Lyndon Eller. So we're excited about her.
And any other news we want to share before we sign off for the day?
I don't think so.
No?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us. We'll be here again next Sunday doing this. And we will also be, of course, Tuesday night. Spread the word. Get the love out there. Another live artist. So, we always have a good time with that. Alan, Mom, good to see you both. Anyone else who's watching, thanks for stopping by. Give a follow if you haven't yet. And we will see you all next week.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Have a great day.
Cheers.
Talk to you soon.